good? Alright, anytime in the presentation, just ask questions. I'm all ears. So these are some of my sponsors right here. My name is Cody Wiesmiller. I'm a junior at the Ripon High School. I've been sponsored by High Tech Fishing for 3 years. They, supply me with all my ice fishing stuff, like tip-offs, rods, reels, all that stuff. Recently, I have been partnered with AccuFlex rods, Reaction Strike, Fish Hog, EcoPro Tungsten, Backstabber Lures, Revenge Baits, and Vicious Fishing. And these are all sponsors that are going to help support me throughout my tournament career. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Wacky Worm. The Wacky Worm is definitely my #1 confidence bait in the summertime. How many of you have heard of the Wacky Worm before? You have? No? Alright. Well, I'm going to show you how to rig a Wacky Worm. The way I rig a Wacky Worm, I use what they call, these are VMC circle hooks. They're called VMC Wacky circle hooks. And the rod that I use, this is a 6'6" St. Croix medium fast action rod. I've got 8-pound test monofilament line on here. I fish a Wacky Worm on monofilament line because it floats. So it's going to make the bait fall slower in the water column. So what I'll do then, I'll show you what a Wacky Worm looks like. I'll take a 4-inch Senko. This is a 4-inch Senko right here. This is a Mardi Gras color. It's my favorite color to use in the summertime for smallmouth bass. And all I do is I take this circle hook and I just put it right in the middle of the bait, like that. See how that looks? So what I'll do is I'll cast it out there and I look for cover. I look for like downed timber, I look for weeds. And if you can find a weed pocket, take and put that Wacky Worm right over a weed pocket and just let it fall. That's my favorite way to fish them, is just cast it out there and let them fall. And what that does is it gives this bait a really good, free falling action in the water column like this. That's all I do is I just let it fall. And what I do is when it's falling, I leave a bowl in my line that's slack in my line, and I wait for my line to jump. If my line jumps, I reel down and I just kind of sweep the rod. I don't set the hook too aggressive because that can easily rip the hook out of a fish's mouth. So again, just let it fall, and if you know that it hit the bottom, just give it a couple more pops until it's a couple inches below the surface of the water and let it fall again. But after that, then just take another cast and try again. So is there any other questions about Wacky Worms? Alright. There is another way that you can fish them. These are called foot shake heads. These are like if you're fishing deeper water. It's a weighted head, and you see these little weed guards right here. Basically, just same concept, just cast it out there, let it fall. It's easy as that. So yeah, if you've never tried a Wacky Worm before, definitely go out this summer and try them out. Definitely my favorite confidence bait in the summertime. This picture right here, this was my first tournament on Lake Emily. These are my 3 fish that I caught on a Wacky Worm. It's just unbelievable the amount of confidence I have with it. So I will move on to my next topic. Alright, my next topic is spinnerbaits. How many of you have ever seen a spinnerbait before? Alright, so there's a bunch of different combinations of spinnerbaits. My favorite spinnerbait to fish is, this is a gold double wool leaf spinnerbait. You can see how that's designed. The way that I like to fish these is I'll fish, this is my, where is it, right here. This is a 7-foot medium fast action rod, and this is a bait casting rod. A bait casting rod is important because a spinnerbait has a lot of torque when you're pulling it through the water. In other words, it has a lot of pull. And I use 15-pound test fluorocarbon, and what I do is I cast it out there and I burn it back to me really quick. I'm making those blades rotate really fast, a couple inches below the surface of the water. So it's making wakes. And the reason why I like to do that is because how many of you have ever heard of the lateral line? So a lateral line, it will be located right on the side of the fish's body here. And that lateral line is designed to help predatory fish like bass, walleyes, muskie, pike locate prey. So the vibrations of that spinnerbait is going to help them locate it. And my favorite conditions to fish it would be when the water is like glass, like this, because I feel like they can easily locate the lure a lot better that way. A lot of the elite pros out there, like on the FLW tour, the BASS tour, they like to fish it with rough water. Now that can work, but like I said, my favorite way to fish them is definitely when the water is glass. I can fish it a lot better. So is there any other questions about spinnerbaits? What's up?
So what kind, like different, what kind would you like recommend? Like there's like different kinds of them?
Yep. My favorite type of spinnerbait to fish, these are two willow leaf blade spinnerbaits. This is what you want to look for. My favorite color would have to be white or gold. I know you fish the mill pond a lot. I fish the mill pond a lot. White and gold is always a killer out there. So, gold willow leaf spinnerbaits. I also have, where are they? Alright, these are Colorado blades. Colorado blades are a lot rounder. They pick up a lot more water and they produce a lot more vibration. I would use these more for like when the water is murky or when it's stained. That way the fish can pick it up a lot easier in the water column. But even if the water is stained or murky, I still would go with the double willow leaf spinnerbait all day. It's just a fish catching machine. It's awesome. So, any other questions?
Why do you have different colors? Like I see you have an orange one and.
All right, so like I like to use gold because like the water at the mill pond is a really dark color, so the gold is going to be a lot more visible in that dark water. If I'm using something like this color right here, I would use it, you know, kind of the same thing, a little bit darker water, but I like the gold and the white colors because it keeps it natural. Like both are meant, you know, to mimic a bluegill or a shiner, but my confidence lies with the gold or white spinnerbait.
Don't you have different colors that you can show them?
Yep, I have this is white and gold.
Shiny.
This is chartreuse, you know, dark green and orange with a nickel and gold willow leaf spinnerbait. You know, just some more white and gold colors right here. And then this is a yellow and kind of a blue. This is more made to mimic a bluegill. And then this is more of a transparent color. I'm not quite sure what the color is. Probably cotton candy is probably the color. So, yeah, I have a bunch of different colors, but if you had to go with one spinnerbait, white and gold. So is that it for spinnerbaits? All right. All right, so my next topic is jigs. I like to fish jigs with my 7-foot medium fast action rod. This is a St. Croix, and then this is my Lew's Laser Pro speed spool. I fish jigs in Texas rigs on 20-pound test line. This is fluorocarbon line, and there's many different types of jigs out there. I think I might have some on me. No, I don't. But you can kind of get the picture here. This is a swim jig. Swim jigs are more made to go through open water. The way I fish a swim jig is I'll cast it out there and I'll let it hit the bottom. I'll reel up my slack and I'll just give pops on the way back to me. And what that does is it mimics a dying shad or a dying crayfish. There's other types of jigs like football jigs, flipping jigs. A football jig, you know, the name speaks for itself. It's a football head style jig. and it's made to fish more, you know, riprap like rocks, structure like wood, you know, stuff like that. And like I said, it's got that football shaped style head to help fish that cover. A flippin' jig has a more triangular shaped head, and that's designed to penetrate the mats and lily pads and thicker weed cover. The way that I like to fish jigs is I'll just, you know, make a quick pitch and I just shake it in place. That's the easiest way to fish a jig. Just shake it in place. You're trying to mimic a crawfish or a dying shad. If you can just try to remember to mimic the forage, you'll get bit. So like I said, just shake it in place. You know, every now and then I'll stop and I'll drag it along the bottom. I'll stop and I'll give it a couple pops, but just try to shake it in place. That's easy. That's the easiest way to fish it. My favorite color for jigs would have to be, you know, the green pumpkin orange right here. Anything that really mimics the crawfish is what I like to go with. If you're gonna fish flipping jigs, I would recommend more braided line. Again, still bait casting rod, but this is 65 pound test Power Pro. The braided line helps pull the fish through the mats and the weeds and stuff like that. So I think that's it on jigs. Jigs and Texas rigs are kind of the same thing, but before I go on to Texas rigs, is there any other questions about jigs? Okay. Alright, so I said Texas rigs was the next topic. Texas rigs is more of just a finesse version of a jig. And I will show you what a Texas rig looks like. I'll rig one up for you real quick. Basically, my Texas rig consists of a bobber stop. These are EcoPro, you know, weight holders, bobber stops. That's what they look like. All you do is just feed these on your line. Like that. And I use EcoPro tungsten 3/8 ounce flipping weights for my Texas rigs. And I just slide that on there. You can kind of see how small that is. For those of you who haven't heard of tungsten before, it's basically much denser than lead. And you know, I can show you guys the difference. Now, even though this is a 1/4 ounce lead weight, I mean, you can still feel the difference in that. If you just hold out your hand, you can feel the difference when I drop it in your hand, how much harder and how much heavier it feels. So this is the tungsten weight, this is the lead weight. Yeah, that one, it's a big difference. I think you already know, but. Yeah, it's just a really big difference. So there's a really big difference compared to tungsten and lead. So I'll put this on my line. Slide that up. And this is just a VMC worm hook, but I like to use these for my Texas rigs because I tend to stay away from the extra wide gap hooks just because I really don't have much confidence with them. And I just tie a simple Palomar knot. And that's the basic components, and then the last thing is the plastic. think I got too many plastics. Alright, so this is just a Berkeley Havelock craw fatty. Is what this is. You can see the shape is designed to mimic a crawfish. And the way I rig these, I go about 1/4 of the way into the top of the bait, come out, make sure that your eye of the hook is inside the plastic. That's going to prevent your knot from getting frayed up. And then just simply make sure the hook is just underneath the other side of the plastic. So I mean, the hook isn't exposed, but as soon as the fish bites down, you'll set the hook into the fish. Just slide your weight down, slide your bobber stop down, and that's just your basic Texas rig. That's what I was fishing on Lake Winnebago. That was my last tournament. Did not do very well, but that's what I was using, and I have a lot of success with it. So, like I said, the same way to work it. Just drag it, just shake it in place. It's really all you gotta do. Again, it's just more of a finesse version of the jig. So is there any other questions about jigs or Texas rigs that you might want to know? Okay. Alright, so the next topic is the drop shot. You know, compared to some other stuff that I've talked about earlier, the drop shot is a little bit more complicated, but all it really is your sinker below the bait. I mean, you can see how this is rigged up here. All I have on there for a sinker is an EcoPro tungsten full contact drop shot weight. I fish this all the time on Big Green, Little Green, you know, wherever I go. For this time of year, I like to use like 3 to 4 inch style worms on my hook, just to keep it small. These fish aren't really looking for a big meal. And then more, when the season kind of gets older, then I go to like my 4 to 5 inch style worms. I use 8-pound test braided line for my main line because braided line can cast further and it's a lot more sensitive. And then I tie on an 8-pound test mono leader because the mono, it floats, as I've said earlier. So it keeps the bait elevated in the water column. Now all I do for a drop shot is I cast it out there and I'll just shake it in place as soon as it hits the bottom. I just shake it in place. Now obviously it's not going to look like that in the water, but I just shake it in place and then I'll stop and I'll just drag it. Just drag it back to me. I'm feeling my way through the cover. I'm feeling my way along the bottom, and if I feel like a tick tick on my line, I just reel back and I just kind of sweep my rod. I'm not looking to set the hook really aggressive. I just sweep my rod and I just bring the fish in. That's basically how you work a drop shot. I don't really have anything else more specific than that. Just try to remember, you know, the sinker below the bait. The hook that I'm using though is a VMC spin shot drop shot hook, and it spins 360 degrees around the hook. All that is there's a swivel in between the hook eye, so that's why I can spin it 360 degrees around my main line. And because of that, it eliminates line twists. If you were to tie your regular drop shot hook on your main line, you're probably going to have to retie again, because after you just caught that fish, it's all got your line messed up. The VMC drop shot hook prevents that from happening. So that's why I use it. It sounds a lot more complicated than what it really is, but if you really want to learn more about any of these techniques that I'm talking about, all you got to do is just go to youtube.com, you know, look up my YouTube channel, go to my Facebook page, you know, go on YouTube, look up other YouTube channels. That's basically where I get a lot of my information. That's how I learn a lot of stuff. I'm on YouTube all the time, looking up new YouTube videos, you know, all that stuff to help me become a better fisherman. So is there any questions about drop shots? What's up?
What do those usually weigh?
The drop shot weights? The drop shot weights that I use, these are 1/8 ounce. So on the package it would say 1/8 ounce drop shot weight. or just a weight, you want to look for something round like this. Actually, what I have too, you can go down to Holiday and the package is labeled Bass Sinker, but this is what I started drop shot fishing with. You can see, you know, I would just tie my line right there, and that's just an 1/8 ounce lead drop shot weight. That's what I used it for. You see, it's pretty small. But it's a super finesse presentation that just really produces for me. So it would be labeled Bass Sinkers on the package, but you can use it for drop shot weights. What's up?
What do you use to tie your main line to your leader?
My main line to my leader, it's actually kind of a complicated knot, but it's a double uni knot. Now, have you heard of the fisherman knot before? Okay, so all you're doing with the fisherman knot, it's like you're tying the fisherman knot onto one line, you're tying it onto the other piece of line, and they're just kind of joining them together. Like I said, I mean, because it is kind of a complicated knot to tie and I've only got so much time, if you really want to learn how to tie it, go to youtube.com and look up how to tie the double uni knot. And not to mention that knot, but there's plenty other knots out there that can join line together. But otherwise, that's what I use, is the double uni knot. So is there any other questions about drop shots, knots, anything? Okay. Okay, so this will be my last slide. But before I talk about it, what do you guys think is the 3 most important things to being a successful fisherman?
Well, where the fish are located.
Well, where the fish are located, yeah, but it's actually pretty simple. I'll give you one of them. One of them is confidence. If you can kind of see where I'm going with this, my first thing that I try to keep in the back of my head all the time is confidence.
Spend time on the water.
Spend time on the water is really important. But that also ties in with a couple of the other things that I was gonna say. But the first one is confidence. You raising your hand?
Yeah. How long do you stay on the water? Like, just time-wise?
Well, during the summer, I'll go out there, you know, after I wake up. I'll go out there, like, okay, let's just say I wake up at like 9 o'clock, you know, I'll take my shower or whatever, go out fishing at like 10 o'clock, and then I'll go out for, you know, 2 or 3 hours, and then I'll go home, eat some lunch, you know, spend a little bit of time at home, and then I'll go back out again. I'm usually fishing like 2 times a day, but right now, since I do work part-time, and since I'm still in school, I'm fishing, you know, whenever I can go out. So that's basically how much time I get out there.
Is that at the mill pond? Yeah.
Yep, this is at the mill pond. This is in the dam there.
Yeah.
I live close. Yeah, I catch so many of those fish out of the mill pond. My biggest fish out of the mill pond actually is a 22-inch largemouth bass. That's the biggest bass I've got out of there. Do you guys remember the picture of that pike on the first slide? I caught that out of the mill pond too, ice fishing. That was a 38-inch, 20-pound northern pike. It was huge.
Wait, didn't you take a picture of that bass, that big bass you caught? Bass you caught by the mill pond, huge one?
The 22-incher?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I don't remember if it was in one of my slides or not. I can go back and look, but
I don't think so.
okay. Otherwise, yeah, I catch a lot of my big fish out of the mill pond. But as I was saying before, one of the most important things to remember is confidence. I have to believe in what I'm fishing. I have to believe that on that cast I will get bit. I have to believe on that cast I could catch the tournament-winning fish. That's the thing that I want you guys to keep in the back of your heads when you're fishing. Whether you're bluegill fishing, whether you're bass fishing, whatever you're fishing for, just believe that you're going to catch a fish on that cast. That's all. I mean, that's a really, really important thing for me. The second thing is patience. Not only do I have to believe that I'm going to catch a fish on that cast, I have to be patient enough to throw it a whole day. Now, my Lake Winnebago tournament that I was at, I was fishing for 3.5 hours, fishing the same thing. And I didn't even come in with any fish. I caught 2 fish and I lost 5 at the boat. And 2 of those 5 fish that I lost at the boat could have easily won me the tournament. And that's going to lead me to my third thing. But, you know, patience. I got to be willing to throw that thing all day, knowing that I have the confidence to fish it, that I might get a fish on that cast, and I got to be patient enough to throw it the rest of the day. So what do you guys think is the third thing? We've got confidence, patience, and I said that I lost 5 fish at the boat.
Trust.
Trust, you're getting there. Come on, Joey, you know this.
Trying to remember. Can't remember.
Okay. A positive attitude. Yeah, see, now you remember.
Yep.
I've made a couple scenes when I'm fishing, but what I really failed at the Winnebago tournament was not keeping a positive attitude. Because I remember setting the hook on like a possible 3-4 pound largemouth bass, and that could have easily won me the tournament. I remember I'm fighting it all the way back to the boat, and just as before I'm about to see that fish come into the boat, I just see the Texas rig just flies right out of the fish's mouth, and I just like, and right there, I look at my boat captain, and I'm like, my confidence and my patience and my positive attitude just went right out the door. And I knew right there that I was done. In the back of my head, I knew I was done, and I shouldn't have said that. I should have kept a positive attitude, but I didn't. And I really believe now, thinking about it a couple days later, that it really costed me the tournament. So that's one thing that I really want you guys to, you know, work on. Confidence, patience, and positive attitude. The 3 things, if you keep that in the back of your mind, you know, you're going to be a successful fisherman. So, with that said, let's talk about crankbaits. Obviously, there's a lot of different types of crankbaits out there. I've got a bunch of them in my tackle box right here. My favorite type of crankbait to fish is a square bill. What's a good square bill? Right here. You can see, you know, the name speaks for itself, that square style lip on that bait. Because this crankbait is so small, and because of this square style lip, it deflects off of cover really easily. I can fish this in weeds, I can fish this in rocks, over wood, through anything. If you guys really want to fish crankbaits, definitely get some square bill crankbaits. These are the most versatile crankbaits on the market, and they catch a lot of fish. They make a bunch of different kinds. Like this is just a storm, a rashi shad, bluegill pattern. And then this is just I want to say, this is an Excalibur square bill. This is my old reliable. 2 minutes. Okay. So, I mean, as you can see, I had to repair the bill up a little bit because this thing, I will go diving for it if I lose it. This is just my old reliable. Other crankbaits are, like this is a Rapala scatter wrap. Have you ever heard of the scatter wrap? I know Joey has. You've heard of it? Well, you see how it's got that more rounded style lip? It's a more round and wide lip. It gives this bait a searching or hunting action in the water column. So it's going left to right, up and down. It's going to be giving a searching or hunting action in the water column. Other types of crankbaits are your lipless crankbaits. Lipless crankbaits, you know, I fish these really, really fast. You know, I'm just bringing it back to me. You know, it rattles, it vibrates. I'm trying to get that reaction bite out of the fish's mouth, or I'm trying to get that reaction bite out of the fish. Other types of crankbaits, this is another really good reliable bait for me. This is just a Rapala, you know, shad wrap, bluegill style. You know, when you're fishing crankbaits, other than lipless crankbaits, just cast it out there and retrieve it really slow. That's the bottom line when you're fishing crankbaits. Other types of crankbaits, this is a jerkbait. A little bit of a different type of crankbait, but basically you take a different type of rod and you just jerk and it just gives that dying shad motion in the water column. You're forcing that bait, you know, down to give it a dying shad, you know, presentation. And then you got your deep
you
divers.
Another sled or no?
No.
Okay. 'Cause we're almost done.
So this is basically the other type of crankbait I have is just a deep diver. You can see how big that bill is, that lip. Basically for anything like 10 feet or over, that's what I fish a lipless crankbait or deep diving crankbait. So that's about it, guys. Thanks for being here today. I really enjoy being here teaching you guys about fishing. If you have any other questions, you know, I mean, you guys know how to get a hold of me. You know, my Facebook page, On the Water with Cody Wiesmiller. My YouTube channel, On the Water with Cody Wiesmiller. That's basically my show. If you have any other questions, just please feel free to ask. So thanks for having me.
Thank you.